What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bling Talks. Today we have Vivien Varay. She is a visual artist and full-time lecturer at Washington State University. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your journey. I think I definitely wanted to dive into the topics that you're lecturing on. Definitely ties into a lot of those things that modern business are calling for. And I also want to know what is going on in those classrooms. But tell us how you got there first and how you got to being a full-time lecturer at a university of that size and acumen.
Yeah. So my journey really started during my undergraduate studies in 2006. So I was really interested in the fine arts, primarily photography and design. And during my studies, I went to Arizona State University. I was living in Arizona at the time in Surprise. And I was also, my first experience with jewelry was actually working for Claire's back in 2007, 2008. And I didn't really have much of a background at jewelry. I wasn't really interested. It was more of this fun kind of retail job. And so I didn't really learn about jewelry, but I learned how to start selling and how to merchandise and how to talk to people in that role. But during my studies, while I was doing this job, I discovered they had a department for metalworking. And I decided to take a class because I just thought it was so interesting how other students and my peers were carving and cutting these designs out of metal. I wanted to learn how to do it. So I took a introductory course as an elective and ended up just really falling in love with it and really just appreciated my instructors and my professors and really the enthusiasm that they had for the field. And so that's really where it started, was in 2009 when I started taking those classes. And it was really a great course because he really taught us. My advisor was Ted McDonough, who's a metalsmith. He's been teaching for for over 2 decades now. And he really taught me the basics of how to work with metal, how to create jewelry. And I was really interested in jewelry. Like, what does it mean? Why is this important? Why am I wearing these objects on the body? And that's really just where it all began. And it was kind of a short run. So I only had about a year to really explore the medium. And I was like, I need more than this. I really want to dive further into jewelry. I want to learn more. And so I decided to pursue my Master's of Fine Arts. And so I started my Master's of Fine Arts at the University of Georgia in 2013, under the direction of Mary Hallam Purse and Lola Brooks. And it was such a life-changing experience. And so they talk with us a lot about how to market ourselves as artists, how to get our name out there, how to talk with people, how to network, but it's not really the focus of a fine arts program. So the fine arts program is really learning about your medium. Why are you making what you're making? Why are you putting this out into the world? It's a lot of questions and a lot of answers while still developing your technique and your creative output. And so that was about a 3-year program. I graduated in 2016. And by then I was really burned out. I was really just exhausted. I wanted to take a break from academia. And so I decided to pursue a career in cosmetics. And so I moved to Philadelphia after I graduated to be with my partner, who's now my husband. And I decided I wanted to work directly with a cosmetic company. That was something that I wanted to do when I was an undergrad. And I had the time and the space to do it now that I was out of school. And so I applied directly with Clinique and interviewed with them. It was an amazing interview. I love them as a company. I think her name was Debbie Ziegler, who essentially hired me. And that's really where I started learning about business and marketing and social media marketing. It was really sales orientated. Um, and I was sort of going in and knowing that. I was going in knowing that, but I was more interested in like, oh, I'm going to do makeovers and I'm going to make people feel good. And I learned very quickly that's not quite what we were doing. We were there to make money. We were there to make money. That was our role. And so I spent about 5 to 7 years doing that. And so the way that it works with these vendors, the vendor partners such as Clinique and Estee Lauder, Lancome, is they're partnered with the big brand retailers such as Macy's, Nordstrom, Bloomingdale's, Lord and Taylor. They have a partnership with them. And so the brands we're ultimately hired by the company, so the big box retailers. but we are also contracted with those vendor partners. And so they pay half the salary, but we're employed by the retailer is how it works. And so
Ooh.
we get all of our training, we get our gratis, we get everything essentially from the vendor partners. So, but we also get a lot of training from, I got a lot of training from my manager through Macy's. And that's really where I started learning how to read sales reports and analyzing that data to understand my business. So it was looking at things like, how many customers do we have? Well, how do we clientele? How do we engage with people? How do we get them to come back to us a second time, a third time, a fourth time? How do we develop and establish a relationship while still remembering that it's also, we have a goal and we have to meet our goals. And so it was really a lot of local store marketing that I did, a lot of outreach, a lot of clienteling that I learned how to do in that role. Um, I did that for about, I did that for about 3 years with Macy's, moved to Nordstrom's, did a little bit of freelance work with Bare Minerals after that, and decided to go into something a bit more design focused. So I applied for a position in 2019, working with Paper Source in downtown Philadelphia. I was really interested in design, especially with their custom print imitations that they do, their custom stationery. And that really taught me how to talk about design with customers because they could come in, schedule an appointment with us. A lot of it was wedding invitations, save the dates, or birthdays. But it really kind of taught me how to really listen to people and understand people. Like, what are they actually looking for? What is it that they're trying to achieve in their designs? How are they trying to feel? And then unfortunately, I was in that role for a very short amount of time because of COVID. So we ended up being furloughed. Yep. And so I kind of sat around in my apartment during quarantine for a couple months, not really sure what I wanted to do. And so I took that as an opportunity to see what was out there. And I found a jeweler, Simmons Brothers company. They started off making thimbles. They've been around for about 100 years. It's a business-owned company. And I applied to be an enameller for them. It was I've had applied previously for other roles, jeweler positions, bench jeweler positions, polishing positions, but they didn't quite pay enough. And so I applied for this one. They interviewed me. It was really casual. It was great. And they hired me on the spot. And I said, well, why not? I'll give it a go. I'll give it a try. I haven't actually worked in production, and I would love to get that experience and know what it's like behind the scenes. So they do more business to business type of model is what they have. So they make jewelry for jewelers. They specifically work with other jewelers, other businesses is what they do. And so I spent a year doing vitreous enamel. So fusing glass to metal using a kiln. And it was probably my favorite. It's probably been one of my favorite jobs, but there was no direct connection between me and a customer. I ended up having a neck injury, so that job didn't really have, it wasn't going to last a long time. It kind of ended shortly. But my husband, we ended up relocating to Pullman, Washington, which is where I'm currently at. He got a position at Washington State University as a researcher. So we relocated. It's a very small town. It has about 35,000 people. So it's very small. And I love it here, absolutely love it. And so I took that opportunity to go back into corporate management and decided to work as a services manager at Ulta Beauty that's in Moscow, Idaho. And I really realized that I really enjoy managing. I really enjoy looking at sales. I really enjoy business. I like coming up with strategies for success. I like looking at those numbers and seeing where, with a company like that, they have so many different numbers, so much data that they measure that you sometimes have to really focus on, okay, this is what's important. This is what I need to look at. And this is what I need to understand about my business, such as thinking about the foot traffic or thinking about the holidays and what that's going to mean, and being able to prep and be strategic in that planning. And so I did that for about 2 years until last year. So last year I applied for an administrative position at Washington State University. I decided I wanted to go back into academia. And I kind of wanted to take baby steps though. That was my plan. Like, I'm going to do an admin role, learn about academia, kind of get familiar with being in that type of environment. and working with scholars, working with faculty, working with staff. Um, and so they ended up offering me a lecturer position because I have the terminal degree, the Master's of Fine Arts. And so it was a program, I'm in the program of digital technology and culture. And so the courses that I teach a lot of courses, a lot of different courses. So in my first semester, I taught an introductory arts course. It's called Digital Tools and Methods, where it was more graphic design focused, but we also looked at moving images as well and audio. And that course really introduces students to how to use technology as a way to communicate or a way to do a creative or professional endeavors. But really the courses that I'm invested in have been the ones I've taught this semester, which has been social media practices, social media case studies, and I also taught 3D digital animation. And so my social media courses, especially my practices courses, we really focus on marketing. And so we kind of start from the beginning. It's really kind of teaching students the history of social media. Like this is how it started and this is why it skyrocketed. And this is what marketing is. And this is why the two have come together. So we talk a lot about, I sort of structure the course in an interesting way. So we talk about the history of social media, just kind of a brief rundown, like these are the apps that started it. This is what it is. And then we also look a lot at how to communicate. So I spend a lot of time talking with them about communication and communication theories and how to talk to people. And so the key with social media is really just, you have to kind of put yourself out there. You have to really engage and start that conversation. And so it's a lot of teaching them that throughout the semester. We also focus on building marketing strategies. I have them focus on content, how to create content, but we pay a lot of attention also to what does this all mean? So it's a lot of questions. So they have a lot of questions and I try to give them as many answers as I can about, what's the impact of social media? What's the impact of this form of communication? Is this something that you need to use or navigate within your own professional endeavors or personal or creative endeavors? And so it's the practices course is really structured to teach them how to manage social media in a professional manner. And so
Okay.
that's a lot of what that course is about.
Awesome. So definitely, it's kind of unique in your story how the beginning was the door to the current situation right now.
Yeah.
So you originally started out with fine arts, well, earlier in the, well, I guess was it in 2016 when you decided or when you graduated
Yep.
from Georgia?
2016 is when I graduated from the University of Georgia, and that's when I decided to go into business.
Yeah. So definitely you got to see, the Claire's, which is kind of cool because that's like pushing on the street.
Yeah.
Definitely at the front. You got your education. It's very unique how many people I interview, by the way, that start with a metalworking class.
Oh, really?
It's oddly unique how many people say that. A lot of them are big designers right now. Some of them are clients of mine. It's just interesting. A lot of people say that. So you've got a real unique mix of experience here.
I do.
And now you're taking it um, to, I guess you would call them the youth.
Uh, yeah, the next generation.
Okay.
That might be a
So
good way to put it.
you went into some of the curriculum. I'll ask you some questions. Sometimes we'll touch on them and then I'll kind of ask some different ones so that um I'm able to hit on a couple different subjects there. So as far as the curriculum goes right now and what you've seen in business and in the jewelry space, if you have had any like major challenges, I guess, that you saw like with that experience, let's say Clinique, because that's where you were really diving into more of the business operations, right?
Yep.
What did you see and learn as far as process and how that looks, how different that probably looks for like a small business owner. And I ask this question because especially retailers, yes, you want to grow their business, but you also want to give them life equity and improve their personal lifestyles, which a lot of them struggle with. And the bridge from that to that is usually SOPs, process, and training. And so if you can share any insight on that, that'd be great.
So you want me to share insight? Sorry,
On
I'm
some of the, yeah, some of the stuff like that you would see working for some of that bigger corporations, how like how that would affect the business or some of the processes or corporate trainings and systems that were in place for the bigger businesses that you would most likely not see in a smaller business.
yeah. It's actually the way that it's approached, it is a big business. So it's usually more money, more responsibility. Um, there's a lot more to learn. However, it's also very similar to a small business. So even though I'm managing a fairly large account, I had managed a large account, it wasn't, you kind of approach it independently. So we would have our own sales goals, we either given to us by the company, but also I was the one managing, so I was coming up with those goals. But we had to meet a certain sales goal. We had to meet our certain criteria. And so coming from Clinique and thinking about it in terms of a smaller business, you it's you kind of market yourself. You as the salesperson, you're really focused on who you are as a seller, but also who you are in terms of, the people you're interacting with. And so the area in which the Macy's that I worked at when I had first started, it had about 40, there were about 40 of us total in the department, in the beauty department. And so each and every one of us was very different, and we approached the business in a different way. We all had that same end goal. We're there to make money because we made commission. And we had to make our goals in order to be stable in our roles. But we all kind of learn and go about it in our own way. And so for me, I was really interested in a 30-60 plan is how I kind of walk in the door. So it was like my first 30 days with Clinique, I had to learn everything about the products, because if I couldn't talk comfortably about the products to a customer, I wasn't going to be able to help them. I wasn't going to be able to sell to them. And so it's learning about the products, learning what drives you, but also learning how to kind of interact in a way that's a bit more interpersonal. So getting to know people was really the key. How do I just get to know you and help you find what you're looking for? Because you have a lot of different customers who come in and they're looking for different things. Either they're wanting something specific, they know exactly what they want, they need a little bit of help, or they just want to come in and have you pamper them. And really what I loved about cosmetics was it was very hands-on, and it's very similar to jewelry. Because we're also doing wedding makeup and they're talking about their jewelry, and it's a very personal experience for everyone, including the sellers, including the people running the business. There were a lot of times where I would start the day just crunching my numbers. This is the amount of sales I had yesterday. This is where I'm at the month. This is where I'm at for the year, looking and comparing to where I'm at with other stores, other sales associates, and sort of making sure that I'm in line. That was really important in terms of operations and strategy and planning, is always being aware of where I was at, but also being aware of where my team was at and how to support them and how to help them. And so as far as like the connection between, big box retailers and big corporations and being a smaller independent company, as a smaller independent company, you kind of do a little bit more of everything, typically, depending on how much you can spend. And so even with the big box retailer, I was still making my marketing materials. I was still making my posters. I was still making my social media accounts, my independent social media accounts to promote my counter and what I was trying to do. And it's not too much different as having my own social media as an artist. And so I took a lot of those skills and really applied it to how I talk to people online. And it was really important, I think, for me to be able to communicate with other jewelers or smaller businesses. Like, these are some things that you can incorporate into your strategies that might help you. So I have a friend right now who we're working on her social media engagement and her social media strategy. Um, and a lot of it is me going through analyzing, looking at her posts, looking at her content, seeing what's getting engaged with, seeing what's not getting engaged with, what's getting comments. Those are a lot of the KPIs that I look at, because engagement's probably the most important, because engagement's really what's going to keep people connected for the long term. And so what we've discovered is, we found out that her engagement could be stronger. So maybe do more outreach, maybe actually message people or leave comments and talk with them. Because at the end of the day, people are going to remember how you make them feel. Um, they're not necessarily always going to remember every single thing that you told them, maybe about what went into a piece, but they're going to remember how it made them feel. And they're more likely to come back to you if it's a positive experience. And so that's typically, I think, how the two combine with each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's really good. Well, it's kind of the best of both worlds there. And I think there's definitely a lot that most business owners will be able to take something from that, because most of them have staff.
Yeah.
And really, it's kind of like your army of promoters
Yeah.
if you do it correctly. And one of the things we worked on with our platform is getting a unified communication channels.
Hmm.
So everyone knows what everybody's marketing or how everyone's getting certain promotions out, but you're able to see all the responses, whether it's from Twitter or an email or a text, because a lot of them are texting the individual staff or the salesperson. And it definitely, in bridal jewelers, you don't necessarily want that, for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
But thanks for sharing that. Okay, cool. So as far as the stuff that's being taught, is there any type of like systems that you guys are using, as far as like with creativity, any type of technologies? And then I'll probably ask about AI and how that's kind of being used, if anything, or taught, if anything, in the creative space.
Yeah. So a lot of the programs, so I try to make sure that I go in with as an accessible, inclusive teaching environment as possible. And so some students have access to really nice programs. I primarily push the Adobe Suite because it's so versatile. You can do so much with it and you have full control over all your creations. And so I really try to get my students to embrace that technology. But I also know it's not accessible to everyone. So not all of them can afford it. And so they use programs on their own, some of them have used Paint to put MS Paint, Microsoft Paint to put their projects together. Some of them will use PowerPoint and Word to put their projects and creative designs together. And a lot of them will just use their phones and the apps directly. So a lot of them, with their social media and the content that they created, some would use Photoshop to edit, and so that their imagery could be vibrant. Some of them just edit in the programs, such as Instagram is probably the biggest one. TikTok's really the biggest one right now. And so usually they just edit right then and there. But I mostly try to get them to use the professional tools because they do have access to it when they are in the course. And so they can use it, they do have access to it. That's the main one that I teach. So that's the main one that I'm interested in learning. But for my own personal use, and I tell them to use it too, there are lots of great apps to help you with photo editing that are a bit more cost effective. So I use VSCO. It's just a photo editing, video editing app on my phone, but it has nice filters. It has a nice editing system. It's similar to Photoshop. It's really easy to edit anything. But yeah, I would say that's the main technology that we use.
Yeah, I would say that's right. I told you we were at interviewing, or we have an intern program.
Hmm.
That's what comes up. That's what majority of people are using and excelling in is Adobe.
Yep.
Uh, there is a lot of cool new tools coming out, actually already here. So curious to know if there's any type of AI education or any tools that you're using or even people might be bringing up um, under the AI umbrella.
Yeah. So AI is really big. When I first started teaching in the fall, this last fall, I was very against the use of it. I'm like, I don't want you using AI in your projects. I want you to do it the old school way. I need you to learn how to do every little thing. But a lot of it was also a little bit of I had some conflict with, well, is it really your work? Is it really your creation? But next year, I'm actually completely changing that thought process and I'm actually allowing it. So I'm kind of curious to see, well, what I'm doing is I'm going to train in my classes how to properly use AI to help them with their creativity, to help them with their writing, to help them with coming up with ideas, or to maybe help them with, creating imagery that they want to make. So one of my students, we did a fast-paced marketing campaign towards the end of the semester in one of my classes. And I said, just make a social media campaign. And they had their criteria that I wanted them to follow or things to think about, such as marketing mix and price points and what type of promotion they're going to do. And one of them actually used AI in the project. They decided to go with an influencer marketing model. And so they had taken a picture of her in the vestibule outside the classroom and actually used Photoshop to put a pair of headphones on her head. And it was so clean, it was so smooth, it was so seamless, it was really perfect. And I was impressed, the whole class was impressed. So when she was talking about it, we all just kind of gasped because we were just so excited about it. And so I think going into next year, I'm really going to, I think, embrace AI in the classroom. And we'll see how it goes. I'm not quite sure. I know a few other professors who've done it. Um, and they've had kind of mixed results where it's been great or it's been awful. So it's kind of gone back and forth. But I've been really interested in trying to get our department to really maybe consider teaching courses on AI, how to actually use it as a creative and professional tool so that it's a bit more personalized rather than, just putting in a prompt, write my essay about this. So it's more than that, right? Like you can plug in all of your writing and your style and you can have it edit for you. I used it one time. I'm like, well, I've only really played with it, but I put in I wrote this essay and I put it in there and I'm like, grade my essay. And so it graded my essay for me. And I'm like 8 out of 10 or 1 to 10 on a scale of 1 to 10, like what is it? It gave me an 8 out of 10. And I was like, well, why? Like, why didn't I get those extra 2 points? And it really explained it to me. And it was really thorough and it was really like kind of meaningful. And I was like, this is really great feedback. I'm really kind of actually enjoying this. Um, but yeah, it's actually kind of a lot of fun, but it should be used correctly in a meaningful way.
Yeah, so you have a point about the legalities of creative work. There
Yeah.
was um, 1 week all about law. It'll get finicky, but uh, that is definitely something that's going to come up. So you are right about that. Uh, but the best way I can explain it is this: have you've ever seen that movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper?
I have not.
Takes the pill and he can like learn languages overnight, and he's like the best stockbroker ever, and Robert De Niro is like the big dog. Anyways, that's what it feels like every day to be working with it. So um couple things in the creative space that are definitely going to be coming out. There's already so much cool stuff. So number one, you're right, there is laws. Number two, put in, junk, get junk. I'll say it that way. So think of it this way. Over the last like 10 to 15 years, we've been dumping our entire consciousness into Google and Facebook.
Yep.
Now, behind Google and Facebook has been all of these AI algorithms that are super intelligent this entire time. language learning models is just one of them. So imagine like how much data they've had on us, and then pair that with knowing everything that's ever been published on the internet. And now us being able to access that and use it however we want. It's pretty powerful stuff, but the reason that it's interesting is because it talks like us,
Hmm.
talks like us, taking all that information, it's able to have a conversation with us. Um, and so you got the text part. Now what the next layer is, things like text to image and text to video. You definitely want to be training the AIs. So lots of cool, fun stuff. And then what's on the horizon is Sora, which you guys might be able to get access to as a university.
Okay.
Um, which you can make like movie style videos literally from text, and they'll give you prompts. They'll give the students prompts and they can come in and make it their own. We can talk more about this later actually, but there's so much cool stuff coming up
Yeah.
on that whole front. So all cool stuff. And um hopefully later down the line, I'll end up getting you into some type of loop or channel, and I'll be sending out a whole bunch of cool stuff like that. So
Yeah.
both on my
It's
personal pages and the business pages. The business pages will be a little different than the personal pages, but
Yeah, it's really kind of awesome. Like it's it came up a lot AI with my animation course, and the students are like, "Wow, this is gonna really change everything about animation and what we know about it and how we experience it." And it makes it a lot easier as well. So it's a great tool. It's a
yeah,
wonderful tool.
it is. Well, I can't wait to show you some more stuff down the line. And I'll definitely be sharing some tools. And I'm glad that you're adopting it because it is one of those things that's like, it's going to be hard to stop.
Yeah, it's kind of the direction we're heading in. But I think I'm trying to approach it with a very this year I didn't quite approach it as open, but the next year I'm going to be really open to it. Like, well, it's not too much different than any other program. So, but you have to use it correctly. You have to use it in a ethical way. And so it's really teaching them how to go about that. And
Yeah,
that's what I'm excited about.
you're on the mark about that. And also knowing the foundation, like the foundation, like methods, or that's going to allow you to use AI better. So when
Yes.
someone goes in there and says, use it, shoot this in a Canon D5D aperture, this, that with lighting and this, that, and color correction. Now that dude's going to be a beast with when
Mhm.
they're, um, so all good stuff. If you have any like last kind of tips for, I guess, people in the business environment, people in the community, um, feel free to share it. And then after that, I'll let people know, if they ever want to get in touch with you, I'll ask you that as well.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. I guess any advice, just, be open to the idea of, evolving and be open to the idea of change. You know, I could get really sort of tunnel visioned on just jewelry and just metalworking and just focus on that. But I think being open to other experiences that maybe aren't so directly related has been something that's been really beneficial for me as a creative, as a teacher, and just as a professional. So I'm really open to learning as much as I can because it all comes together.
Yeah, you can't really lose if you're constantly learning,
Mhm.
investing in yourself. It's great advice. And if anybody wants to get a hold of you, what do you prefer?
Email's great. So you can get a hold of me through email. It's do you want me to say my email?
Yeah, you can.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Email is vivienne.varay@wsu.edu, or you can also contact me on Instagram. That's how most people get a hold of me. So you can send me a message on Instagram as well. My tag is Vivien Varay. But yeah, those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure meeting you. look forward to building a relationship with you and kind of bouncing stuff back and forth. Definitely one of the main pillars of our business is AI training.
Okay,
Uh, so we are putting out a whole bunch of free stuff, cool stuff, and then definitely going to be we're going to have some digital courses that are crazy cool. I mean, create 100 social media posts and designs in the same time that you can make five or make $100 a minute, like it's just crazy cool stuff. And then more like corporate trainings and things like that.
awesome.
Love to share some stuff back and forth and see what's going on in your world and keep a dialogue and keep to support each other. So thank you so much for being on here. I do appreciate it. And it's been amazing to talk to, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good day and keep in touch. We'll talk soon.
All right, thank you.